Good morning, everybody. Sorry we're getting a little bit of a late start. I would like to call the meeting of the Human Services Committee to order. Please call the roll.
Chair Swarzy.
Here.
Member Childress.
Here.
Member Garcia. Member Desart. Here. Member Galassi. Here. Member LaPlante. Here.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
I'd like to speak about our small human services grant, but I'm going to save it until old business because there's quite a bit to discuss, and I'd like the Vice Chair Garcia to be here, so we'll have plenty of time to answer questions and everything else at that point. So is that okay? Good. I'll take a motion to approve item 232730, the
Second.
Human Services Committee regular meeting minutes of Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. We have a motion, a second. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve item FIR 17823, acceptance and appropriation of the HUD 2022 Continuum of Care Planning Grant, agreement number IL 184-1L5T1422200 in the amount of $170,370. We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve item FIR 18323, acceptance and appropriation of the HUD 2022 Continuum of Care Homeless Management Information System Grant Plan Year 24 in the amount of $188,556. Motion a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion to approve item FIR 18423, acceptance and appropriation of the IACAA Employment Barrier Reduction Pilot Program in Plan Year 2024, the amount of $45,600. We have a motion a second. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Second. Second.
Oh, did we not get a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for catching that. I thought I heard one. And any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. I'll take a motion to approve item HSP 6623, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Jorns Healthcare LLC for rental of fluid immersion simulation mattress systems for beds for the DuPage Care Center for the period September 8, 23 through September 7, 2024 for a contract total amount not to exceed $36,600. We have a motion. Did we get a second? Okay. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I will take a motion to approve item HSP 6723, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Cardinal Health Inc. for primary pharmaceuticals for in and outpatient pharmacy services for the DuPage Care Center for the period September 1st, 23 through August 31st, 25 for contract total not to exceed $4,800,000, contract pursuant to state of Illinois.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Take a motion to approve item 232732, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Direct Supply Inc. for Jorns replacement bed parts for the DuPage Care Center for the period of September 5th, 23 through September 4th, 24 for a total contract amount not to exceed $28,800.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Questions or comments? We'll call a roll on this one, please.
Member Desart. Aye. Member Galassi. Aye. Member LaPlante. Aye. Member Childress.
Yes.
Chair Swarzy.
Yes, thank you. I'll take a motion to approve item 232733, HHSP 0289-822, an amendment to resolution HHSP 0289-2022, issued to Cisco Chicago Inc. for primary food supplies and chemicals for the DuPage Care Center and campus cafes at the JTK Administration Building and the Judicial Office facilities for a change order to increase the contract in the amount of $270,210, resulting in a new contract amount not to exceed $1,139,378, an increase of 31.09%. We have a motion, a second. Questions or comments? Yes.
Just wondered about the 31% increase.
We have Janelle right behind you.
Sure. Hi, Janelle.
Obviously, our food costs are continuing to go up related to just inflation, but also our sales have gone up in our cafes, so that's part of it as well. We budgeted a very small amount because of the usage was so low, but we're seeing an increase in that revenue too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On the budget transfers, I'll take a motion to approve item 232734, a budget transfer to transfer funds from regular salaries account to flexible benefit earnings account to cover greater than expected flex benefit expenses incurred in the amount of $500.
Second.
Motion and second. Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve item 232735, a budget transfer to transfer funds from regular salaries account to the flexible benefit earnings account to cover greater than expected flex benefit expenses incurred, which is in the amount of $200. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're on item 8C right now. I'll take a motion to approve item 232736, a budget transfer to transfer funds from building
So moved.
improvements
Second.
accounts to the repair and maintenance facilities account for fire damper inspection for the care center for IDPH in the amount of $20,000. We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to travel, I'll take a motion to approve item 232737, a travel request for administrator of intake and referral to attend the weatherization coordinator training put on by DACO to better understand the weatherization process, program, planning, budgeting, and weatherization job development in Champaign, Illinois, from October 23rd, 23 through October 27th, 23. Expenses to include lodging, miscellaneous expenses, and per diems for the approximate total amount of $880. You have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to consent items. I'm going to take a motion to combine consent items 10A through 10P, which these are all either decreases or closed or expired purchase orders. And we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and I'll take the motion to approve these items. 10A, 232738, Benovate Inc. doing business as Neighborly Software. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $15,400 and closing due to the contract expiring. Item 232739, Advocare Systems. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $18,242.77 due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232740, Professional Medical and Surgical Supply Inc. This purchase order is decreasing in the amount of $15,750 and closing due to purchase order expiring. Item 232741, KCI USA Inc. This purchase order is decreasing in the amount of $32,678.27 and closing due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232742, MedSearch Staffing Services doing business as United Pharmacy. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $26,385.50 and closing due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232743, American Bottling Company doing business as Keurig Dr. Pepper. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $23,300 to offset the Cisco Chicago Inc. change order increase. Item 232744, Nova Staff Healthcare Services. This purchase order is decreasing in the amount of $60,134 and closing due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232745, Maxim Healthcare Services. This purchase order is decreasing in the amount of $50,127.75 and closing due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232746, Easy Way Inc. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $16,238.76 and closing due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232747, Ecolab Inc. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $13,412.67 and closing due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232748, Hairdo Wearwas. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $11,422.39 and closing due to the purchase order expiring. Item 232749, Fox River Foods doing business as Performance Food Service Chicago. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $39,188.92 to offset the Cisco Chicago Incorporated change order increase. Item 232750, Lakeshore Dairy Inc. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $33,000 to offset the Cisco Chicago Inc. change order increase. Item 232751, Alpha Baking Company. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $18,000 to offset the Cisco Chicago Inc. change order increase. Item 232752, AMS Mechanical Systems Inc. This purchase order is decreasing the amount of $59,138.55 due to the purchase order expiring. And item 232753, Change
Second.
order to extend the DuPage Federation contract end date by 30 days from September 10th, 23 through October 10th, 23 to allow for RFP 23072CS to be completed, awarded, and implemented. No change in the contract total. We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? Member Garcia.
Yeah, and I apologize if this was discussed earlier before I got here. I know you probably just approved the Cisco increase. So all these companies that we're now decreasing, can the same services or supplies be received from Cisco as they were from these companies?
Leave that to Janelle Chapman.
No, we're shifting the dollars from these contracts, closing out the POs, and then we're moving those funds over to cover, I mean, not all of them, but just the ones that indicate.
Okay.
Those dollars are just being moved over to cover. So we had excess dollars in these accounts. We were over in Cisco, so to keep the budget clean, then you just move those, we move those over to cover that Cisco increase.
Okay, but they're not gonna affect what you're receiving or anything?
No,
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
sorry, a lot of cleanup. That's what we close those out.
Okay, thanks.
Member Desard.
So, I just wanted to see if Nick is here now. So members say had asked for more information on why things were being closed out. And so most of these say, the purchase order is expiring. So I just wanted more information on that. Did we not use the whatever the thing was? The United Pharmacy, for example, it says due to purchase order expiring, did we not use enough of that in the budget? How does that work, Jeff? What does the purchase order expiring mean? We didn't
Well,
buy
no.
enough of the thing to fill out the budgeted amount?
Yeah, sometimes that happens. So there's an expiration date on many of the purchase
Right,
orders.
right.
So then, when it needs to be renewed or, increased or whatnot, a new purchase order has to be approved by the committee and then the board. A lot of these remain stagnant, stale for some time because the money just isn't completely spent out of them. And things change over a couple of years. So in years past, we haven't done a lot of these. I started bringing these forward, for the committees and board to know that, or just to formally approve these. So, typically on change orders for an increase in price or something like that, there'll be a more detailed explanation. But for kind of a closeout, just on a date, an expiration date, we just put the backup in here. On that blue link, you can see the original purchase order or change order in there. We did talk with Jim Zay though, and yeah, we're making strides to
Yeah, I
come up with
appreciate
some
more detail.
language that's consistent throughout all of these. So yeah, we're working through that.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll take a motion to receive and place on file item JPS CO 000623, a recommendation for the approval of amendment to resolution JPSP 79822 for a change order amending purchase order 5690-0001 serve issued to Clear Loss Prevention Inc. to increase the contract in the amount of $18,209, resulting in an amended contract total amount not to exceed $324,148.19, an increase in 5.95% for the DuPage Care Center. Do we have a motion? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. A second. Okay. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to residency waivers, Janelle.
We have one waiver this morning. We currently have 10 male, 14 female beds available at the care center. 3 of these beds were already offered to DuPage County residents. So no DuPage County residents would be displaced by this applicant. So this applicant has not lived in DuPage County, but their family, immediate family has for over 33 years. And the applicant is in St. Louis and no longer has any family or friends in that location. So they want to move her closer to her family.
Any questions or comments? We have a motion to
So moved.
approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We're back to you, Janelle. So
I will. These are the handouts that I referenced. I have 10 copies there. You want me to shut this? Because I know it's a little noisy. So, good morning, I'm representing the Care Center budget for 2024. All right, so on the screen, next slide. So as a reminder, the Care Center budget is always a break-even budget, so revenues would equal expenses. We'll go through these briefly. You can see the patient care revenue, the non-patient care revenue, indirects. The CDBG was something that we recently started budgeting under a revenue as well as an expense. So that is there. And then you can see there the county subsidy is usually 2 million. And this year we put in a 0 county subsidy. We'll talk more about that. Funds on hand, we're taking $1 million of our funds on hand. So you can see our total revenues, 46 million. Expenses, again, you can see it's a break even, so our expenses match out to that 46 million. If you have questions, just jump in. So you can see the greater detail in the document I provided. If you have questions on that, we can certainly ask, but I'm going to just stick to the PowerPoint. Highlight this. So under revenue talking points, the revenues have been significantly impacted in 2023 by our ongoing inability to take admissions during COVID outbreaks. In 2024, we are projecting an increase. We project an increase in the ability to accept admissions. However, now we're going to limit our beds due to construction. The rules also changed for outbreaks, so we're able to deal with those differently. So hopefully they'll have less impact going forward. Right now, we've had some issues with rhinovirus and the way the health department, we're following their guidance and very closely communicating with the infection prevention people with IDPH on how to handle that. So even rhinovirus, which is some people call it the common cold, is now being handled differently than pre-COVID. So we're doing some more isolation related to that. That, however, is coming declining, and the units are no longer on isolation. We've also had 3 cases of COVID. I'm hoping we're not seeing an uptick. These were staff members mostly that have traveled recently, so the exposure to the care center and care center residents was very minimal. That's just a little side note. So the budgeted occupancy was 95% based on the 294 available beds for 2023. We are projecting an 88.44%. This is a stretch goal, assuming no restricted admissions and increased hiring to care for residents. The rates by payer vary. We anticipate higher rates for Medicaid and private pay, but lower rates for Medicare and insurance. Just recently, we got some information that our Medicare per diems will actually go up. And so this presentation was done prior to us receiving that information. So Medicare per diems will go up a little bit as well. So the $2 million subsidy was not included in the care center budget. We put it in as a placeholder under the DuPage County contingency if we would need it. It's a big change for the care center. So when you go to the payer mix, next slide, you can see our payer mix in 2021, we were running around 71%. We're really driving the Medicaid, one, because our rate's higher, but two, if you recall, our CNA tenure program, where we came to you all to follow the Health and Human Services, the HFS Medicaid rate reform, and the CNA tenure, where we will be paying CNAs for their years of experience, and we are reimbursed by HFS based on our public aid percentage. So the higher our percentage, the more reimbursement we get from HFS. So it just makes sense for us to really drive that Medicaid for that reason as well. Plus, it's our mission and our goal for the county. Next slide. Per diems, you can see our per diems for each category. For each year, and there is a point that I need to talk about because we'll be coming to you every year. We come to you in relation to the private pay per diem. So you can see our public aid per diem has gone up considerably. The OIG requires your private pay per diem to be above your Medicaid per diem. So we'll be coming when we do our annual rate increase letter, and we come to you prior to that. We'll be discussing that more with you then. But our private pay per diem must be higher than our Medicaid. So as we do well, and we're a 5-star facility, we're 5-star quality, our case mix index, our Medicaid rate is high, our private pay has to be above that. Okay.
Is that daily?
Yes.
Okay.
So daily rates. Okay. Expense points for 2024, an overall increase of 1.54%. Personnel is under 3.38 from 23, predominantly because of the CNA tenure payments from Medicaid rate reform. The 2024 budget does reflect a 2% COLA placeholder and an 8% increase in employee health insurance over the annualized 23 numbers. Food and drug, we have approximately a 4% increase in there due to inflation. And contractual expenses increased by 8%, primarily due to contingencies. So what it also is in that contingency is if you participate in the ad hoc committee, we know that we're looking at our union contract and the wages that we're paying. So there's a placeholder under contingency to cover that as we proceed with those negotiations. The last item under expenses, capital allocations, they reflect an increase of 15%. Again, that's at CDBG grants now being recorded under revenue and expenses. So that's just a point to mention there as well. And that is it. I know that's a lot. Questions for me?
Just quick question, and maybe this is for Jeff. So we're not allocating $2 million, the annual $2 million that the county contributes to the DuPage Care Center revenue.
Correct.
But it's going into the county contingency. So how does that mean it's available for her to use if needed, or?
We're proposing that money, that's a transfer from the general fund to the care center each year. And that is to help with operations and, historically the balanced budget. So, I think the care center now with their revenues are at a point where they're self-sustaining. And they also have, care center also has a $20 million fund balance of cash. So they're doing quite well. And you couple that with expenses being down, personnel, I know your beds are down, things like that. We think this is a good year to suspend that transfer, keep the money in the general fund, and see where the care center goes.
Okay. So that money would not be available at all?
Correct.
Okay, for 2024. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it is.
Just
very
keep it in
good.
mind if we need it in the future. We've had it for many years. It used to be 3, we got it down to 2. So the words he used about being self-sustaining is pretty remarkable. And that Medicaid rate reform is huge for us.
Nice work. Thanks. I have a quick question.
I did just a general question. If it weren't for the construction, how many beds would the care center have? You mentioned 294, but that's
Right,
currently, right? How
yes.
many beds would we have in then?
We have 366 licensed beds.
Okay.
Prior to COVID, we ran around 320, between 312, 320 on a consistent basis. Obviously, our goal is to get back to that.
Okay.
But with
And my follow-up question is, as people leave for whatever reason, how low do you want to get with the construction? Or due to
I would not want to go any lower than we are. We still have wiggle room, but with the new way we have to isolate people, it actually takes more beds for us because you're keeping them in place, you're cohabitating where you can, but you're not. So it's infection control reasons, you really have to leave beds available for that purpose. So that ties up more beds. But with the construction, I think we're in a good spot. We can go a little bit higher than we are, and we'd like to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I'm gonna follow up with that
Yep.
question. So in 2023, you estimated 95% of the 294 beds.
Right.
What percentage are we out of those 294? Are we right there?
No, we're running around 212, 215 right
So
now.
we're okay.
Yep.
So even at 88% for 2024, that
Yep,
we
it's
gotta
still a
get some,
stretch goal.
we gotta get some people. on
Right.
that.
But you also have to have staff,
Mhm.
to care for people.
Yeah.
So, and we've had some of that issue. I mean, we are seeing some positive influx of hires, and we're hoping with what we're proposing through the ad hoc committee will be very impactful for us as well. Yeah, I think we had like 4 or 5 CNAs inquire just this week.
Oh, good.
Not that that'll come to fruition, but the inquiry is there, so we're hopeful.
Any other questions?
As you have more organizations, more facilities change ownership, you're seeing more, because the benefits just aren't as good in those organizations. And so we're seeing a lot more people looking for some benefit, and we have an immense amount of benefit, so.
Great job. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say, great job. I mean, the fact that you're self-sustaining and, you know, within budget, and that's just great. Makes our job easy. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
On to community services update, Mary Keating.
I have two relatively quick things. First, I just want to give kudos to our outreach team. That's Robbie Bagg and Julie Burdick under Gina's leadership. August and September, we're at 24 different outreach events. So really getting out in the community, getting the word out. So really proud of that effort. And then just a preview, finance next week. It looks like the travel policy is going to be on the agenda. Jason told me I could give you a preview of it. There's basically a kind of a $2,500 threshold. Anything below $2,500 doesn't have to go to committee or board. Does require the committee chair to sign off. So we'll need to work on that process with Chair Swarzy. Anything over $2,500 needs committee or board approval. Also under state law, any travel by elected officials, regardless of the dollar amount, has to be approved by the board. And then another thing I'm pleased about. So currently, employees who are going to a conference, if it's not an organization that invoices for conference registration, if you have to do it online, employees have to use their own credit cards. And under current policy, they can't get reimbursed until that conference happens. And so it could be a matter of 3 or 4 months where employees are carrying that cost on their own, which really is, for some employees, is a hardship, or they can't do it at all.
Say that again, is it state law?
No, that's a county policy.
Oh, the
County
county
doesn't have it
policy.
yet, right?
We
Yep,
need to
that's
change
current.
That policy.
That
because
policy is being changed.
Good, thank you.
That is something that that is being changed that I'm very pleased about. So with the signature of the committee chair, the employee can get reimbursed before the conference happens. They just have to understand that if the conference gets canceled and they get a refund, they have to return that to them. So that's a big deal. We have a lot of people who go to conferences, and whether they're able to put it on a credit card or choose not to put it on a credit card. It's
That is a big deal.
yeah, it's a big deal. So I was really pleased to see that in there. Other than that, I think the policy is extremely simple. It's basically just per diems. Or not doing meal receipts or anything like that anymore. So I'm quite pleased with the process improvements. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mary. Any other questions for Mary? Okay, on to old business. If you had looked through your emails yesterday, everybody, all 18 county board members received an email from Finance, Mary Catherine, with the list of small grant, human services grant applicants, who's eligible and so forth, and the amount of money. So I'm going to have Mary Catherine, she's going to hand out a form now that talks about, it's going to show a list that everybody that is officially eligible, ones that may not be eligible and why, and she's going to discuss that a little bit before we talk about the next steps in this. So
yeah, and I thought I might mention, I know probably most of you haven't looked at your emails, but we do, just a couple words about what you got in the email. One is it has some deadlines, and that's kind of always the most important thing. We had discussed the deadline of having everything returned by August 30th or September 5th. So I'm hoping that's our anticipation that, groups will get together and they'll make their decisions and they'll send them back. Second thing is there are 2 attachments with the email. One is an attachment that has a spreadsheet with it, and that has the spreadsheet actually has 4 different tabs. So if you open it up and you just see the first sheet, you'd be like, oh, I already have this. This is all the grants. But you need to kind of scroll back for the back spreadsheets show just your district. And it provides a little bit, the first tab has where they're located in your district. The second tab has the comments that we have in terms of eligibility and so on. The last tab actually has a recommendation sheet. And so what we're hoping to get back from you, obviously folks can just send an email that says we want to fund these 6 items. But in a perfect world, we'd like you to take the last spreadsheet in the tab, delete the ones that you don't want, and then send it back to us. So it should be relatively straightforward. They're in Excel, but just a reminder to look through all the tabs when you get the document.
And I want to pause it for a second. So being that this information is coming through this committee, the decisions are coming through this committee, you as your district representative on this committee will be sort of, I mean, anyone can come to any of us for questions, but there's some reliance on you as your district representative to have these conversations with your district people. So.
Yeah, and to that point, the second attachment is a zip file. I have to confess internally that I had a little bit of trouble with the zip file on my own. So if anybody has any trouble, Gerald's like, just keep clicking, Mary Catherine. If you do have any problems with any of the files, the zip files, you're getting two different things. The first spreadsheet has a summary of your projects, big picture. The second thing that you're getting is an individual description of each project, and that's in a PDF. That's not what you have in front of you right now, but it's a long file. If you have 20 applications in that zip file, you're going to have 20 different sheets, and each one is going to have a cover sheet on it. So a little bit like what we did with CARES Act, where we did a staff summary sheet. So big picture, the applications can be long. We didn't send you every attachment, but we did send you a note. Here's what they call their project. Here's what we call your project. And here's what we've found in terms of their application. Staff summary sheet. To date, the finance team and the county auditor have looked at everything. The state's attorney's office is still in the process of looking at a number of things. Connor got a big volume at relatively short notice, so we put in all his comments, to date, but he's still going to be reviewing things through the end of the week, which is something that we noted. I know he's not here, but really special thanks to Connor. He's been very patient and turned things around for us very quickly in the last couple of days. So we really appreciate the work that the state's attorney is doing on this. So in a way, what you're getting is a bit draft, but we wanted to get things out. We talked with the chair and and vice chair. We wanted to get the things out as quickly as possible. So now you've seen kind of what we've seen, and you can look through it. So that all leads into yesterday. We were really in the weeds with all the details, and I knew we had to talk today with chair, and he's asked, and vice chair asked, okay, where are we kind of big picture in terms of the numbers? And that's why I did the spreadsheet. I wanted it to be really simple, but as an accountant, you can see maybe not so much. So apologies to you. This is the best I could do. I did on the very back page, the team and I, we put together some notes on how to read the spreadsheet. So I'm really going to talk through those notes, but the purpose of this is kind of more of a management tool for us that are, where are we with the overall program, and do we have enough money to fund, everything that we got? So a couple things about this spreadsheet. The way it's set up is, it's set up by district. So the first section here is first district, second district, third district, and it's sorted by the black column. So, and that's the eligibility column as determined by finance. So we wanted to prioritize, yeah, we knew right away that we had more requests than we could fund, but we wanted to see sort of a quick look, where do we stand today in terms of where we fund, if we take out the projects that we think aren't eligible. So for each district, as you look at this, the last ones that are in brown, red, or what my sister refers to as burnt umber, those are the ones that the finance and audit think are ineligible. And generally those are for really clear facts, like they are not a 501c3. Their revenues are too high. There's some reason based on the way we set up the program that we think that they're clearly not eligible. In a few cases, there are some things that we think are problematic, but in general, the burnt umber ones are not eligible. And then kind of right above the burnt umber ones are the ones that are still kind of being reviewed and we think are a little bit more problematic. So as you look through this, they're a little bit ranked. So top to bottom, how is each district doing? That's really what we were trying to get at. So one of the things that we did was on the second to last column, there's one that says cumulative total. It's actually the third to last column. We just ran a running total of where they were, and then in the column after that, that's $175,000. That's how much money you got. So like in the first example, you can see under the 175 that they're at a total, when you look at all the projects, they're at $192,000, which is actually $70,000 over what the amount is. So, but not such a bad story because you can also see that they have one project that we think is ineligible. So District 1 is a good place to be. You know, that's going to be a little bit more straightforward. Some of the others have, you know, 4 and 5 in particular, have a lot more applicants. And so going through the process is going to be a little bit more challenging. You can see on this first page, when you look, I want to just mention one other thing, just to kind of give the members of, let's say, District 4 an idea of, you know, where they're going to have to make priorities. We put in this brown line, and that line is, it's not really based, it's based on when they hit $175,000. So you can kind of see that above the line, there, you know, how many projects there are, and below line, how many projects there are.
Can I ask a quick question right
yeah,
there?
they're not
Based on what you're
prioritized.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I wondered, that's what I wondered. I wondered
Yeah.
if you prioritize these?
Yeah, we
Because
did.
they're not in alpha order. You did prioritize them?
They're in numeric order as the way the applications came in.
Okay,
So this is
like
really
Think
just,
annual conference
yeah, so,
was the first to come in?
right,
this
the way we accepted them. And Gerald and I were talking about this morning. He's like, well, we should resort it for them and put all the ones that are really small above, you know, with the lower prices. And I was like, no, I'll just explain it to them. This is just visually for you, for, you know, the members of District 4 to get a sense of, hey, yeah, we can't approve them. And you can move them around in whatever order you want, but you are going to have to, the way the program's set up right now, you are going to have to make some decisions. So just
And there is
one
an opportunity to apply?
Yeah, and you, I
Because
mean,
I'm looking at Neighbor Pride, for example, and it says here that Neighbor Pride is the burnt umber. And it says, recommend that this proposal be submitted with more something, I'm guessing, information.
yeah,
So people can reapply?
that's a different question for other than me. I mean,
We hadn't really had a conversation about whether or not someone can reapply, but I think the short answer is they had this opportunity to apply this year. If they didn't get everything in, if for whatever reason they didn't meet eligibility requirements, that they're assuming we're going to continue this next year, they can reapply next year, but there's not an opportunity to reapply this
Well,
year.
it's my understanding that this money is coming from the interest in the ARPA money. So it's my understanding that it won't be this money this year. Is that true, Jeff?
It's the last part of that?
I didn't understand that
It's
question.
my understanding that this money is coming from interest from the ARPA fund.
Right.
Next year, we've spent more ARPA money. We only have $3 million left in ARPA fund, 3 point whatever. So my understanding is there won't be interest in ARPA dollars next year.
And again, that's a conversation that I've been having with Liz in finance to see if we can continue this, but you have more than,
We have more.
we have plenty of interest.
Right.
Only $3 million left in ARPA funds, but the interest has been accumulating over
I
the years.
understand that.
Projected to be $8 million.
You know, yeah, interest.
Looks like you might be able to borrow or use money from other districts.
Thanks,
No.
Jeff.
Budget
No.
transfer.
We,
district transfer.
We have this, you know, okay, so that's a conversation that myself, Vice Chair, Finance and Community Services Director had quite a extensive conversation on that. And we have come to the conclusion that that is not going to be the case. Each
I'm sorry, what
district,
is not going to be the case?
you can't borrow, basically District 4 and District 5, this is who we're talking about.
Okay.
We're not going to, because District 6 is only spending $120,000, we're not going to transfer $55,000 into anybody else's district.
That makes
We,
sense.
you know, each district got their $175,000. You know, the goal was use that $175,000 if you had the applications for it, and if not, so there's that potential to use that leftover money for next year or whatever, but we're not going to basically give District 4 and District 5 the extra money.
That makes sense.
As a follow-up to that, and Mary, I wanted to ask you about this as well, because I think you've been part of the conversation. Lucy and I have been, obviously District 3 did not get that many requests, and it looks like there's a potential that only 2 are eligible. Because 3, well, 1 is ineligible and 2 are under further review. So, you know, there's a possibility that we'll only have $35,000 to allocate. I know there's still great needs down in the Willowbrook Corners area, Hinsdale Lake. And I know Lucy's been working hard, and I've been working hard with like Dan at Community House. I've also had meetings with the principal at Hinsdale South, and there's a great desire to have a tutoring program there, for example. And Dan has said that they do not have funds in their budget to fund this, a new tutoring program. So is this something that District 3 members, because this is a great concern of ours and something we'd love to support, you know, since we have extra money, can we use some of our extra money to fund a program like that?
So that would require, you know, a different action by the board. This money for this program is exclusively for agencies under 300,000, and the community house as well about that. So you couldn't just say, well, let's just put it out of that pot. We did at the staff level have an excellent meeting with the community house and the Y, and we're waiting on a response from them about, you know, a proposal that they'd like to put forward to bring additional resources there. Our discussion was that could come from a variety of sources, maybe ARPA interest, maybe the unallocated ARPA funds, maybe general. We didn't talk specifically about, but we know that that's an area that the board really recognizes the need. But we're waiting on a proposal for that. But in terms of sort of the leftover here, you would have, I think you'd have to probably unallocate the $1,050,000 and then do a new resolution for that.
Well, you'd have to go to Finance Committee
Yeah.
and make a request,
Right.
Okay,
because those types of programs run through Finance.
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
And there's about roughly, you know, depending on who's officially eligible and not, there's somewhere around $150,000, $160,000 that would be unaccounted for due to Districts 1, 2, 3, and 6 not fulfilling their $175,000. So there is that money available, which, you know, my goal would be to use to continue this program next year, you know, throw that in there. But you have that opportunity to do that at a finance meeting as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just also just give huge thank yous to the finance committee for the finance team. I think Gerald like really like the amount of work. I personally really appreciate how much work. I know how much work this is. They just did a tremendous job. So thanks for not putting it in my department.
So thank you, Mary Catherine, for your presentation. And she did mention that we would, and it's in the email as well, that we would like the final request to be in by August 30th. So we can come to our September 5th meeting here. And you know, this doesn't have to go to county, it doesn't have to go to finance. We do the final vote here on September 5th. So please share with your district mates, you know, this conversation. And again, you can call me, you can call Mary, you can call Paula, you can call Mary Catherine if you have any questions. Yes.
Also, thank you. And I really appreciate the spreadsheet, Dana, fellow accountant. But a question, when will the needs for the review issues be resolved?
We have a commitment that Connor will get that done by the end of the week.
Okay.
So he'll send an update to everybody, or probably just for your projects to your district.
Well, you know what, I'll definitely follow up with Mary Catherine on Friday if we haven't heard anything.
Okay.
So,
I just, for my clarification for the members, in the areas, Mary Catherine, where there is no narrative in the state's attorney's draft column, are those the ones he hasn't gotten to
He
yet?
hasn't got
Okay.
it. Yeah, and it's a little bit clear in the packets. There's a little more information, so you'll be able to see that.
So
Yes,
I wanted to ask a question regarding policy and process. If some of these that are ineligible, can they reapply if they meet the deadline as of August 30th? I asked that question already, and
Whether they
just
can
because
reapply.
the chairman of a committee doesn't have unilateral control over policy, right? Like I couldn't just, because I'm chair of legislative committee, I couldn't just come up with my own legislative agenda.
The board sets policy and a protocol, and
Right.
if the board feels like they want to change, it's up to the board as a whole.
So we have to go to the
The
board.
committee was given the purview to oversee this process with the chair having but if the board feels differently, they can institute whatever controls they like.
So this has to go to the board? This question?
The resolution, the resolution included the application deadline.
So
Gotcha.
the board can modify that if they would
It would
like.
take an act of the board to
Yeah.
modify that resolution. However, we do have a resolution that spells out deadlines,
That is true.
which
I
is
just
the
got,
governing policy until
on some
such
of
time
my,
as it's changed. And I would defer to the
orange
state's attorney on
numbers.
The chair's decision on that was correct based upon the action of the board. If the board members would like to deviate from that, they would then have to change the resolution that has previously been approved by the board.
Thank you.
And then
Like the Exchange Club Rib Fest, they already got $25,000 from the board, so they wouldn't be eligible for it.
And keep in mind,
For example.
the three members of each district
Right.
can look at their applicants and make that decision. We are going to not fund this one or this one because they have already received. There is
Gotcha.
discretion by the members in each district.
Thank you.
you know, and I, believe me, Member Sard, I appreciate where you're coming from because, you know, these are all organizations that do just wonderful things and we really want to do what we can. You know, my fear about changing the dates or, you know, requirements is you're not just opening it up for one, you're opening it up for, you know, a dozen.
And my thought process too is that this is a brand new thing. So some of these wonderful organizations might not have gotten it right,
Sure.
might not have crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. And that was my thought.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we will look to each of our districts representatives to, I know there's a link in the email that Mary Catherine sent that asks for, these are the organizations you are going to find. And one other comment, because you have $175,000, it is possible, sort of a question and a statement. It is possible that if someone's asking, say, for $25,000 and maybe it's the last one you want to fund and you only have $15,000 left, that is your discretion as well, to not fund the entire thing. Is that they have that ability?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, several of my organizations, in District 5 are asking for the full amount, and that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
especially with,
Into that column on the far right, Mary? The exclude ineligible column.
Oh, that was really just for our purposes to see where we thought we were overall, if we funded every eligible project, how close would we be to the, 1,050,000? And you can see the last page, the last couple notes, if we funded what we think as of right now is eligible, we'd still be
$138,000 over what the budget for the program is. That's more of a big picture issue now that we have a better sense of what's eligible and what's not eligible. So we're oversubscribed.
By $138,000.
Yeah, and that would assume, moving money from one district to another.
Mary Catherine, could you talk a little bit about if you have a nonprofit, its physical location is in a certain district, but its outreach might be primarily two districts, could those two districts theoretically come together and fund half and half, even though it's physically located in another district?
That's not really the way we set up.
So I just want to make sure, because some board members have asked that question, if you can have multiple districts funding a organization up to the 25 max.
No, we based it on
Physical
where
location.
the physical location is, yeah.
Because several board members have asked that question of whether two districts can come together.
Thank you all, and again, thank you very, very much. That was good haul, you guys. Thank you so much. Do we have any new business? That being said, I'll take a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.